Very warm welcome to everybody who's online right now. Good evening. Welcome to Coffee with Aarti, Sunanda, and Priyanka with the Women on Boards team. Really thrilled to have this conversation. My name is Priyanka and I work with ISDM. I lead the Women on Boards program. With us, we have two very special power-packed women. Aarti Madhusudan, who leads the Women on Boards program and also anchors it. And she's a founder of Governance Counts. She does a lot of work in the space of volunteering and governance in the social sector. And we have Sunanda Rangarajan, who is a cohort member from the second cohort of Women on Boards and leads CSR for Omega Healthcare in Bangalore. Welcome, both of you. Really excited for this conversation. We'll keep this chatty and informal, and I'm going to throw some questions at both of you and pitch in myself as well. And feel free to add, share your views, share your experiences, etc. And towards the end of the conversation, we'll open up for questions from the audience. So I request the audience members to post their questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box, whatever you are able to access right now. So let's get started. And Aarti, let's begin with you. So the first question is, what has been the genesis of the Women on Boards program?
Thank you, Priyanka. And hello, everybody. So the genesis actually goes back to two things. One is, of course, a deep desire and intent to invite and inspire more women to be part of the social sector. Which has been going on in my mind, for a few years. The second really was a survey that we ran to ask nonprofit organizations what kind of people would they like to get on their boards if they wanted to strengthen their boards. And we had more than 120 organizations that responded to that survey, and more than 80% of them spoke about wanting specific skill sets that we are looking for in the cohorts. But I think the pivot really came about through a conversation that one of the co-founders of ISDM, Ravi, and I were having, just around why it is important to have more women in positions of leadership in the nonprofit sector. And we found that, while the sector has a lot of women who are doing the work that they're doing on the ground, at the leadership level, that number tends to become much smaller than we'd like. And of course, there's no argument to the fact that women, just by being women, bring a certain perspective and ability to look at issues in a very different way that would add immense value to the work that many of these social entrepreneurs and founders were doing. And so that was it really. And we said, let's just invite as many women as we can. And we had this magical number of 100 to begin with. We are at the 50 mark, and that really is the genesis.
Thanks, Aarti. I know you've already mentioned, but just highlight a little more about the need for women on boards, particularly, and women in leadership.
Yeah, so sorry. So like I mentioned, I think our belief is that women bring a certain set of attributes that are extremely valuable. But looking specifically at the kind of women we are inviting to the program, which is women with 15 years of work experience, ideally from the corporate sector, our belief is that they will bring in the skills and competencies that they would have gathered in their professional journeys, but also equally be able to take the experience of being in leadership positions in the nonprofit sector, on boards, enabling organizations to do well and be more effective, back to their own corporate lives and corporate experiences. And therefore, hopefully, in the journey that they are traversing in the corporate sector, also come to the work that they're already doing with a lot more empathy and compassion, and with the perspective of larger social good. So even if you're making, a cola, for example, are you able to think about it from the larger perspective of, how can we do this in a way that will benefit society and not take away from it? So I think the experience of the social sector, the experience of enabling organizations to do better, to lead better, will be more easily translated back by women, because that's what we do. We don't think in silos, and these are generalizations, I know, but we tend to be far better at most things anyway.
Thanks, Aarti, for being not so subtle. And I totally agree with what you're saying. Just for everybody's knowledge, 25% of our cohort members serve on corporate boards as well. And they did our program and have come back saying that the program has been of immense value for them, because the decision making that happens on corporate boards and in their roles is impacted by the understanding of the social sector. So it's really powerful. Thanks, Aarti. I'll quickly jump to Sunanda before we go into the nuances of the program to hear about her experience of having done the program and now an alum.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think this was the best decision of 2022 that I took for myself, to invest in myself. And the program name itself, I think I've spoken about this even last year. The fact that women need to be out there in boards is something it resonated with me. And I think if we're sitting in corporate boardrooms and discussing diversity and inclusion, this is what we should be doing, so we should be walking this path. So I think the cohort was the highlight for me was the diversity, right? The profile of women that came together. There were 30 women from 30 different organizations in C-suite, and it was with a common purpose of wanting to serve in social purpose organizations. I think I have not come across any other forum where I can meet power women from different fields, right, in corporate. So for me, that was really the biggest takeaway. And today I have access to 30 women in 30 organizations in, decision-making positions where, they have just been the sisterhood that we have formed. And so much has happened after the program as well. So that was a key highlight for me. Apart from the speakers and the course itself, I think a lot changed personally for me also, especially after the last immersion that happened. Mind shift change in terms of personal experience, from empathy to compassion and learning about all of that, right? So I think that really was a big change and a shift in my personal life as well. So yeah, so this was the best decision of 22 for me.
Thank you. There's a comment for you, Sunanda, from Sucharita, who's an alum from the first cohort, who's also joining us in this conversation. And she says access to 60 women and 60 organizations.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be ultimately 100 women and many.
That's amazing, right? And it's not just access to organizations, it's access to these women, the 60 women who are ready to. I remember when I got into this program last year, I wanted to talk to somebody from the first cohort, and how readily they were willing to just chat, open up, give their time, and you just see how they come together. And that safe space, I think nobody else can bring together, other than women for ourselves. So I think that was a unique highlight for me.
Thank you, Sunanda. And I remember all the fun y'all had at the guest house. Okay, Aarti, I'll come back to you. So do talk about a little bit about the curriculum and pedagogy of the program and what really took for us to put it all together.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Priyanka. So, while I leave Priyanka to talk more specifically about the exact breakup of the curriculum, I think I can give you a broad overview. So it is, I think, equally an attribute building program in as much as it is a skills or a competency sharing program, right? Because I think it's important to also highlight that what we've tried to do overall in the curriculum is to bring this spirit of service, the spirit of saying that it's in every one of us and every one of the participants to be able to give back, and that in that giving back as a board member, how much you're actually doing for your own self, right? And just reflecting on that. So that's sort of the tonality of the program that we're trying to build and evolve. But more specifically, I think it is also, we're also trying to give people the view of what India really is, right? What are the problems in the country and what are the opportunities that await each one of us to be able to make a difference? What is really happening out there that maybe the media is not giving us a whole story? Maybe, what we're seeing out there is not as real. So what is the nature of the problems that India is facing? How real is it? That's one part. The second is really on the role of the individual as a board member or as an advisor themselves. And one might argue that, hey, this information one can really pick it up from the internet. But I think what we're trying to do collectively is to say that there are cultural elements to the program that one cannot really find, right? Because it's actually a combination of a lot of lived experiences of founders, of board members, of organizations, of all of those nuances that you'll find in that board dynamic that we're trying to give people an exposure to. So really, what is the role of the board? What are the real problems that board members are likely to be faced with, and what are some of the solutions that they can come up with? How innovative can you get? And so on. And I think the last bit is really around just immersing yourself in an experience to reflect about the journey, about yourself, about how you would like to engage going further. So broadly, this is it. We are evolving with every cohort. I know we've added some elements to the second cohort, based on the feedback that we got from the first. We're looking at some newer elements to the next cohort based on the feedback that we've gotten from the second cohort. And a key addition, I think, is this whole bit around the volunteering piece, right? So we had a lot of feedback from the second cohort saying, we need a little bit more real on ground kind of exposure, and what better to give you that other than volunteering. So there is a small component of cohort members actually being able to volunteer some time as part of their learning and as part of their journey. So that's sort of what the curriculum is trying to cover. So Nanda, you want to add? You want to say something?
No, I think also the exposure that we got, like you said, understanding the various organizations, for me especially, I'm sitting in South India in one, and I think and coming from the sector and working here, it opened my eyes to some of the organizations up north and the founders' journey and stories through the speakers that we had, to be able to also directly interact with them, right? And it was so easy to interact. Imagine otherwise me trying to get in touch with the founder of an organization in Delhi, and it's impossible. Nobody responds to LinkedIn these days. So,
yeah.
So for me to just get access to those people and to understand the work they do, and I realize that the problems are the same, but the story, the journey is so different. How can we learn from each other? How can we collaborate? And yeah, so I think that for me also was a great experience, just to be able to talk to those founders and some of the industry experts, from the social sector and all of that. So the access to them was great. So
yeah, thank you, Aarti and Sunanda. Just want to add that the entire experience has been curated in a way where not just the participants are learning or getting information or knowledge from the sector stalwarts and sector leaders, but learning from each other's experiences, from each other's journeys, exposures, etc. And that for me has been extremely powerful, as I have seen the 53 women leaders go through the program. So I'll dig deeper, as Aarti said, a little bit into the structure of the program, because we often get asked about that. So roughly the program is about 90 to 100 hours, which spans over a period of 3 months. And people like math, so I put the hours together to say, oh, it's 100 hours. But it's really easy and comfortable in a way that we are cognizant of the fact that it's for working women, senior women leaders who are also mothers and caretakers. So we've really tried to put it in that way. And therefore, it's just one module every month over a Friday, Saturday, so that you also get a Sunday to chill and get back to work on a Monday. So things have been planned in that manner. It's a mix of virtual and in-person meetings. We've realized how fun, energizing, and beautiful it is to bring the cohort together. And so in the first cohort, it was only the third module when people came together. And we got feedback. And in the second cohort, we brought everyone together in the second module itself. And we saw the difference. And when people met again in the third module, it was like people knew each other for many, many years. And that's the kind of network and community that's getting built. So coming back to the modules, Aarti already mentioned what gets covered in the modules, but these are 2 full days of sessions in every module. It's interspersed by some reading material that we sent you in advance, some case study that you work in small groups and solve, and then present to the larger group in the sessions, so on and so forth. It's not very rigorous, but the content is engaging and really pushes the thinking and opens our mind towards the sector complexity and challenges. So that's the structure. And again, like Aarti mentioned, initially we used to do a 1-day immersion in between the modules at an organization, just to meet the founder, learn from their journey, meet the team, visit the community. We realized that there is a lot more that is needed to really open our eyes, and we've converted that into a longer volunteering engagement. And Sunanda's cohort currently is in that process. So people in their own cities have been connected by us with various organizations, and volunteering projects have been set up that the cohort will be undertaking in the coming month. So that's really the structure of the program. And we do master classes as well. So when we see that there is a need for, let's say, a conversation around fundraising in the social sector, or marketing, or building your brand, etc., so we organize master classes as well with sector leaders. So that's the structure. I'll just pause here and jump back to Aarti again. And my question to Aarti is placements. What about that? If people join the program to be a board member, so how does that happen?
Yeah, right. Thanks, Priyanka. So the placements bit, we are supported by Dasra, which is an organization that's fairly well known in the sector. They work very closely with Priyanka and I on the placements piece. There are 2 or 3 things that we do in the placement, but let me say this, that everybody who joins the program will get placed. Okay, so that's a given. Some will get placed sooner than some others, but the idea is that we will be at it till you tell us to back off and say, okay, I found my own organization now, let me be. But I think for us, the endeavor is to ensure that everyone who does the program finds a place as an advisory board member in at least one, if not definitely one, but in some cases there could be 2 organizations as well, depending on the individual's ability to give time. The way that we're doing it currently, and this has changed a little bit from the way we did it in the first cohort, is we're reaching out to organizations that have articulated a need for a specific kind of profile or 2. And we're in the process of completing, we've just completed, I think, our very deep interviews with the founders, and in some cases with the board members as well, existing board members of those organizations, primarily to understand, how serious are they in terms of engaging people who do the program, and how serious are they in looking for board members? What is it that they're actually seeking? Are they just looking for connects, in which case we're saying, this is not the group that you will, that you should be looking at, or are they really looking for help? Once we've established the seriousness in these organizations about their need for, inviting a potentially new board member, we are sharing the information of those organizations with the kinds of people that they have picked as their first choice from the from the profiles that we've sent to them. So if somebody says, I'm looking for someone with a finance background or a marketing background, then we send them the profiles of the people who have that specific skill set. And then we also give the cohort members an opportunity to say, okay, I've read about this organization, it's a cause that seems interesting, let me have a chat. So we're in the process of making those first conversations between the organization and the cohort member happen. Once that is done, we will also work to the extent that is required around the induction of that individual onto the advisory board. So in some instances, it could be, let me jump right in, and that's happened with about 50-60% or more of our first cohort very quickly. And now, of course, that number has gone up, where they've just joined the advisory board instantly. In some other cases, they're engaging with they have engaged with the organization for a few months before they've decided to be more formally invited. That's the process. And we also are, saying to the cohort that if for any reason that we can't predict now, a certain engagement is not working out, often it's chemistry, you might tick off on all the boxes, but it's just that you don't tick off on some box, then we are encouraging everybody to write back to us, because there is a need out there. I mean, there is a humongous number of organizations and founders that are seeking help and support. So that's sort of where we are on the placement.
Thanks, Aarti. I would just like to add that, as we said, it's not a 3-month relationship that we share with people who apply to the program. It's a lifetime of friendship and community that's getting built. And post the formal program that spans over roughly 3 months, there are continued conversations. There's a lot of narratives and conversations happening within ISDM and otherwise that we keep sharing with the community. We're there to support each other. There is constant hand-holding, mentoring if required, and like Aarti said, support with placements and continued support, not like if we've placed you once and that's really it. There's constant conversation with organizations to seek feedback on what can be done better and how has their experience of the participants been on their boards. And I'd just like to share that lot of organization leaders have come back saying that the support they have received from WOB alumni has been phenomenal. It's been really, really helpful for them to have women on boards, alumni on their board. And in a very short span, they've added a lot of value. So that's quite encouraging for us as well. And so, like I said, we continue to handhold and support even after the program ends. So that's not really the end of the program and the support. Sunanda, I'll come to you now. And my question to you is, maybe share 1 or 2 key aha moments or key learnings that you had in the program.
Yeah, I think I touched upon the aha moment, right? For me, I think it really happened in the last immersion at the last meeting in December. And I think it was, I don't want to give away the speaker. I don't know if you're going to bring them back, but it was Nipun. And, when I was listening to him and his journey and the conversation about, sympathy, empathy, compassion. And then we realize we're stuck really in between sympathy and empathy. And then suddenly you realize that there is a whole new perspective to understanding compassion. And then suddenly you start feeling like, I'm not here to help you. Let me see how I can, I'm not here to fix your problem. Who am I really, right? So that shift was a big aha moment for me. So, and my perspective changed, right? Sure, board position is great. It's really nice. But then can I go beyond that and just start looking at how can I really be helpful? How can I be of service, right? That really was my aha moment. And so this year I really want to see how I can truly be of service. And that is for me a big aha moment. And that has happened only through this program. And I think a couple of sessions with some of the speakers and their journeys, I think I had tears in my eyes a couple of times. I broke down. I couldn't sleep, the work that they do and the way they tackle the social problems that they do. And here we're working and thinking I'm doing great things. And then you realize they're solving real world problems there, and their journey, their struggle, those were aha moments for me that really humbled me, so yeah.
Thank you, Sunanda. Aarti, any aha moments for you to be on the other side and see so many women go through this journey?
Actually, several, aha moments, some more fun, which, I think Sunanda and I will talk about with the people who do join this program. But really, I think for me, what's reinforcing and will always be is that women get each other. I mean, I just think we do. I don't think for any of us in the cohort, it was like the first time we met, the ice got broken so quickly and so fast. Um, and I just think, the ability of a community of women to be able to make change, we need to be out there and own this a little bit more than we do today. And really have to be, I feel for me, the pride that I, I, I experience when I see this community growing and the women who are doing this program and even otherwise is extremely reinforcing. Every time I interact with anybody, it's like, okay, this is it. We are going to solve the problems of the world, if at all.
Yeah, great. I'd like to share one as well. I mean, usually I've been part of uh, reviewing the application, some of the panel conversations, and it's often like, okay, I want to contribute and add value to the sector, and therefore I want to do this. But the moment people come and join the program and go through some experience, the tables turn. It's really about, oh my God, there's so much to learn and we know so little, and that humility and grace that comes with the experience of interacting with people is just so brilliant. And having been in the sector myself for so many years and gone through the program twice over, and hopefully many more times, it's just amazing to see how people are growing through these journeys of being on this program. So that's been my aha moment. But thank you so much for sharing your views on this. Aarti, a few more questions for you. Technically, we just get people, people ask, why are we charging for this program, and et cetera, et cetera. So do you want to just shed some light on that?
On why we are charging?
Yeah.
Nothing good in life comes free. One, okay. No, but that having, that being said, I think that there is effort and there is institutional backing in putting this program together, right? So whether it's the time that people are putting in, whether it is the logistics of it, the organizing of each of the modules, inviting the speakers, curating the immersions, all of that is both time and effort, right? And therefore, there is a cost to the program. It is modest in my view, given what we are hoping to be able to give back to the participant. And like I said right at the beginning, the intent is not to say, okay, the program is done and we'll see you, right? I mean, the intent is to stay connected and be in touch for as long as is needed by any of the cohort members, and to check in and make sure that what they've learned, what they are taking away, they're able to apply and use and try to make it work for them to the extent that we possibly can, and for as long as we possibly can and they would like. So
Thanks, Aarti. And so Charita has been our cheerleader, and she says, why shouldn't you charge? So,
An investment in ourselves, that's it.
yeah. Who is it for, this program? I mean, we've talked about the program and everything, and Sunanda sitting right in front of us having done it. But if you want to just describe a little more, Aarti, on what profile suits best for this kind of a program.
Yeah, so it's, this is something that we've picked up from what the sector is asking for, right? It's less about what I think some of us in the program who have tried to put together have thought about. Of course, we have used the experience that we've had over many years, the collective awareness that we've built around governance and boards and so on. But largely, it's coming from what are social purpose organizations seeking and asking for. And there are two or three things, right? One is they want individuals who have substantive work experience already. So this is not for a young person, however deeply interested they may be, or may tick off on all the boxes in terms of skills that they may have. I think what the sector is seeking and asking for, or this particular group that we are of organizations that we are looking at, is saying we want people with experience. We want people with 15 years of experience. We actually started off with 20, but we're saying 15. And that's essentially because this is a board position. It is a position where, you know, both the number of years of experience as well as all that is gained through that experience will lend itself to very, very high gravitas and credibility for the social entrepreneurs and for the founders and the board members of these organizations. So one is that. One is 15 years of work experience. Of course, we understand women would have taken breaks, you know, for a variety of reasons, and that is fine. But not including those breaks is what we're saying. So one is that. Second, I think this length of experience also creates a peer community that can sort of lean on each other as they're trying to enable you know, organizations that they will get on the boards of to be more effective and so on, right? We also think that people who come into this program ideally should come in with a sense of purpose and trying to find that purpose now. So if it is, what this is not is a training for unpaid consultancies. It is not that. None of the board cohort members who join in, you know, will, I mean, they will all be people who will share in the journey of that social purpose organization, right? It is not intended to be a transactional engagement. So really coming in to say, you know, it's now time for me to try and do something purposeful for myself as an individual. That's really critical. And to look upon this as an opportunity to be able to learn and share and grow, just in terms of attributes, right? And be really open to saying that, you know, one of the things, and again, this is a generalization I'm making, it's not necessarily true all the time, but sometimes we think that people with corporate experience have better skills than people in the nonprofit sector do, right? And that is so not true. They're just a different set of skills to what somebody in the nonprofit might have. And so just coming into this program to say that, you know, I've done technology or I've done marketing, and those are extremely valuable and useful skills. But you know what? You've rallied a community to come together and make RTE happen, right? So what is it that I have and know that can be helpful to you? And what is it that you know and have I can take away from and use? Sorry, wrong answer, Priyanka, but that's really what we're looking for. And you know, I think our selection after the application and all of that will you know, will include some of these variables to consider.
Thank you, Aarti. And I really agree with one point that you made, which is the fact of complementary skills, not just better or not so good. This whole concept of Samaj, Sarkar, Bazaar coming together hand in hand and really trying to make the difference is what we need today, because in isolation, none of the sectors can really change lives of people. So very true, Aarti. You did point towards the selection process, and I'll just go deeper into that. Meanwhile, I'd request the audience to put in questions in the Q&A window or the chat window so that we can open them up for Aarti and Sunanda. So we do have a rigorous application process, and some of you would agree to that. It's a long application, but it's only and only to put together a really amazing cohort of people who not just learn in the program, but learn from each other. And therefore, we want to know about your background, your work experience, your purpose to do this work. Post the application, we shortlist applications and choose a fewer people who are invited for a panel conversation with, again, sector stalwarts or people who've served both in the corporate and social sector, both to answer questions about the program and to clarify own doubts on whether a board role is best suited for the individual, and is it best suited at that point of time. So we try and facilitate such processes so that we're able to curate a really, really solid cohort. We keep the cohort number to max of 27, 28, at max 30, because again, we don't want a very, very big cohort, and therefore the selection process as well. So just really wanted to highlight that, because it's important for the applicants to know the selection process and why we do this so rigorously. So I'll just check if there are any questions in the chat. So there's a question that says, are you considering and managing this network of women on boards on an ongoing basis? Aarti, do you want to take that up?
I think the short answer is yes. The extent of what that means, we will have to, figure out and define. The idea is to create this community. I don't think we want to manage it. We just want to be available as people who can, provide assistance, help if needed. So we certainly want to sort of be around people's lives for as long as they had us.
Yeah. And I think a second part to that answer would also be that we are looking to go ahead with this program beyond 100 for sure. And it's going to be many more than 100. It might be mixed cohorts as well, and it might be specific targeted areas of cohort members as well. So a lot of exciting stuff kind of brewing behind the scenes. There is another question. As I put in my registration, should we be considering how we can play a more strategic role in influencing the dynamics of the organization and the challenges that the organization is facing? I think that's what the question says.
So I mean, again, the answer to that is really dependent on what the organization is seeking, right? I think the best way to engage is to really go into the role saying, how can I be of help? And seeing if that nature of engagement is making sense for the individual. While, strategic goal planning, addressing challenges and all of that is critical to most organizations, perhaps that's not the first step to take. And the first step is really to say, let me understand, let's get to the bottom of why is this happening before starting to solution. And I think through the program, we emphasize this a great deal, saying that spend time to understand, listen, know the person, know the organization, know the context. What you get rewarded for in the corporate sector is to come up with solutions like that. And that rarely works in the nonprofit sector, right? Because you need to, it's complex, it's dependent on very many variables, some of which will not even be evident to you in the first few interactions. So the answer, of course, is that you're engaging so that, we can all collectively find solutions to the problems that organizations and society at large is facing. But I think it needs to be done in a patient and phased manner.
Sure. Another question, Aarti, that is there is, what is it the Women on Boards team going to do to engage the alumni in terms of continuous learning?
So we've started some of that already, this month with both alumni, both cohorts becoming the alumni. So I think there's an event that's happening next weekend and the weekend after that in Bangalore, one in Delhi, one in Bangalore. So we have multiple ideas. One is simply getting people together in the presence of somebody who can share her experience, of either. So we are starting off, for example, with somebody who's been in the corporate sector, very active, and now is, also pretty active as a board member. And what is her experience been like? The idea is to curate and create different opportunities for alumni to come together, other than the master classes that are thrown open by ISDM to everybody that has the time and would like to learn and participate in. I think there is already a fairly active WhatsApp group of the first alumni and the second. There is a LinkedIn group as well, and I suspect that people are anyway reaching out to each other either for fun. I know there have been some nice lunches in Bangalore, for example, that have been organized.
We have
But
more than going on.
yeah, but I'm sure there are more than lunches going on as well. So it's open at this point. The intent is to keep getting back to the community and engaging. Some will be more formal, and a lot, I think, will be informal.
Sure. Aarti, there's a clarification for the previous question that I asked you. So basically what Sucharita is asking is that what is the role, if at all, women on boards can play in influencing the challenges that not-for-profit organizations as a sector are facing with various issues like FCRA, reporting rules, etc., in the current environment as things are changing? So that was the question.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Suchi. So I think the short answer to that is honestly at this point, we don't know. I don't know, right? I mean, because while these are real, serious, and honestly, after yesterday's news with the finance thing, it's quite scary as to what the sector is going to be facing. I think at this point, we don't know how the women on boards as a community can play a role. But I think it's certainly something that we should all be thinking about in terms of saying, can we be better advocates for the sector, more vocal, more verbal, and really dissipate the fears that people seem to have or are being created about the sector itself. But I think there is an opportunity to see how we can do this constructively and proactively, and that's something that we should certainly be thinking about as this group becomes bigger.
Great. We do not have any other questions in the chat box. But Aarti, Sunanda, if you'd like to add a little bit around what profiles of people have till now joined the program and what geographies they come from, just to highlight the diversity as well, and how the program welcomes everybody, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, Sunanda?
Yeah, my cohort saw, I now have friends, doctors, lawyers, there were engineers, there are people in HR, there were people in finance, there were people in army. We had women friends who worked in the army, somebody is an art collector, and so on and so forth, right? So we've had some ex-CEOs of companies join us and the cohort, and such incredible women. And I think I made friends from the country where I've, from someone from Northeast was there, somebody from Delhi, somebody from Bombay, and we're already planning, when are we going to meet again? How are we going to go and visit these people in their state? And, so, and it's great because all of us, I think I've met people across the sector. Across, you name the corporate genre or the background, they are from there. And I think I was really, we had great stories from an army doctor, right? So she served in the army as a doctor, and she had great stories. And there was a legal head from an organization I remember in our case study, and it was such a diverse group of 4 women that came together to tackle our case story. And then we had, 4 of us wearing 4 different hats with 4 different ways we think. And it was just, I think that was the unique part, right? And yeah, so I think I saw people from lots of states, lots of backgrounds with a common purpose. Yeah.
Aarti, anything to add there?
No, I think Sunanda's covered it. Very diverse. I think for me, what was really interesting was that this time we had the highest number from Bangalore, which somebody was joking the other day and saying that looks like women in Bangalore are seeking to find purpose more because they have time on the roads as they go from point A to point B. But it was very interesting. I think Sunanda is right. I mean, just diverse in terms of background, culture, geography, and all of that. So,
yeah, for me, I think an aha moment has also come from the fact that we've had representation from sectors that are usually known as sectors for men, like finance, tech, construction. architect. So we've had people from all these backgrounds, and it's fantastic to see them contributing to organizations in their new roles as advisors. So one last and one thing, Aarti and Sunanda, if you would want to leave with the group here and anyone who's listening, one piece of advice, if I may say, or anything, one thing that you want to say before we close out.
Sunanda?
I would tell women, that you should invest this whatever money, time in this program, just because you the takeaway from this is so big, not just professionally. It is one thing that the white elephant is obvious. We know we're going to get placed in the board, but the other things that come out of this program, I think the sisterhood, the community of women, the safe space, and then the access to just having these many resourceful women out there for anything and everything. It doesn't have to be professional, anything. So I think I have made friends for life, and in my 40s, I didn't expect I'll make such deep friendships with fellow women who are so accomplished and so friendly and so accessible. So I think you should take that time to invest in yourself, and this will be a good investment that we do to ourselves. That's the only piece of advice, or just a tip.
Yeah, I just want to say I've never laughed as much as I have through this program. I mean, both in the first cohort as well as in the second, and just completely wild times, good wild times, I'm not saying. But we've laughed and really let our hair down, and I think we deserve that. We deserve to have some fun. So
yeah. Thanks, Aarti, and I'm a total witness of the wild fun, plus the learning as well. We are strict teachers. So thank you very, very much, and thanks, Aarti and Sunanda, for engaging and sharing your piece of yarn with all of us. I hope this was useful for everyone attending and everybody listening in. And Sunanda, wish you all the best in your journey ahead. And we hope you influence a lot more people to join this journey with